Malik Scott, Get Up and Fight. I'm T Cozy, and this is with just 15 defeats. This is with just 15 defeats. The YouTube boxing channel with heavyweight opinions. My name is T Cozy and I am the host of this show, and today we're going to be reviewing the heavyweight clash between Luis Ortiz and Malik Scott, which happened last night. And if you've got any comments about this fight, if you've got any comments about my review, click on the comments section, hit me back with some comments. I want to hear from you, I want to see what you think, and we'll start the debate. If you like this video, click on the thumbs up, the like button, whatever it is, do that. And if you want to check out any more of my videos, please jump forward to my channel. Check out what I've got there for you. I've got a wide range of videos. Some of the previews of the fights coming up in the next couple of weeks, like Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz Jr. And we're going to be putting more reviews this week for Anthony Joshua, some of the Lucas Brown fight, the Stiverne fight, these sort of things. We've also got a number of other videos like about the whole Tyson Fury situation, about weight classes, etc. So get involved, right? So let's move forward to this fight. Now, this is the first relatively big-ish fight of the winter period for heavyweight boxing. Luis Ortiz, Malik Scott. And whilst it's not a major fight, it was an interesting fight. We reviewed it just a few weeks ago, and we predicted that Ortiz would win. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to say is that he did win it relatively comfortably. He pretty much won every single round, okay, plus more. But it hasn't gone down that well. It wasn't an exciting fight. And from some of the TV productions that I've seen, the commentators have pretty much downed this fight big time. And yeah, it wasn't an amazing fight. But I think part of the reason why it's been so down is because of the hype train that surrounds Luis Ortiz. Everyone expects him to knock people out instantly because he has such a high knockout percentage. But I think primarily it's because he hasn't really fought anyone of any note. Now, he has fought in these three fights: Scott, Jennings, Tony Thompson. He's fought some kind of guys that are probably not the top guys in the US, but they're kind of there or thereabouts. They've got some good experience, and he's beat them. And the hype train is building and building and building. Seems like he's signed up with Matchroom to take this further, obviously to get in the big fights, because we know that Matchroom, if there's one thing they can do, it's get someone a world title fight. That is the one thing Matchroom can definitely do. They can get anyone a world title fight like that. So that's obviously the whole thing. They're trying to possibly lead towards fights of Anthony Joshua, some of the other guys. Okay, so anyway, let's go through the actual fight and my opinion of it. Okay, now a lot of the time I go through a round by round review. In this one, I don't think it's worth it because it's so one-sided, but we'll kind of go through and we'll talk about the story of the fight just to kind of get a flavour of basically what happened. Now, as I say, it was one-sided, but it wasn't a beatdown. It was not a beatdown. It was heavily one-sided, but it wasn't really a beatdown. To be honest, I'm looking at Malik Scott and I'm thinking he's probably going to get up today and he's tomorrow, whenever, and he's not going to feel like he was in the fight of his life, partly because of what he did. But the fight started with Scott running, rapid movement around the ring, just circling away. And Ortiz is firing very big swinging shots, trying to kind of take him down, but not really getting anything, and eventually getting very frustrated that Scott is kind of moving at such speed. And what funny thing that happened was that the ref actually kind of said, like, come on, let's get it on. Let's fight. Where I don't think it's up for the referee to say like what they should do. If they've got a game plan, whether we like it as fans, whether the opponents like it, that's their game plan. The referee should not be getting involved in saying, come on, you need to be basically getting your head kicked in. But anyway, that's basically what happened. Now, as the rounds progressed, Ortiz he started to get closer and closer to Scott, but he, in my opinion, I think he struggled to really land good shots. Now, he was landing shots and he was kind of throwing some body shots here and there, and he was throwing infinitely more shots than Scott, but he was not landing anything of any serious note, to be perfectly honest. Now, also as these early rounds progressed, we saw Malik Scott on the canvas numerous times, and they were pathetic. They weren't knockdowns. He was anticipating punches, and he was avoiding them and dropping. So he was trying to avoid the power, and he was also wasting time. It was pretty poor showing from Scott. I think realistically, when you come out of this fight, he didn't give it his all, and he embarrassed himself with those kind of what he was doing. Okay, the kind of middle early rounds were all Ortiz, and Scott's movement had slowed, it ceased, he'd kind of run out of steam, and it looked like it was only a matter of time that Ortiz would kind of basically take him out, but it didn't happen. We then got a few knockdowns, but that were genuine knockdowns. But Scott got up relatively easy. Now, this is the story of the fight, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, right? But then from the middle of the fight, it was a combination of Ortiz slowing and Scott kind of getting a bit more confidence. His movement was up again, and he started to get into it. But it looked like he was just trying to survive, which effectively he was. Now, I think it was the 7th round he managed to land a bit of a right hook right at the start on Ortiz's chin. And Ortiz, like, it didn't kind of like stop in his tracks or whatever, but you could see he kind of stopped and he looked as if to say, "Whoa, this guy's actually punched me." He's almost kind of surprised, quite amusing. Yeah, as I say, Ortiz, he really started to slow as the fight went on, up until a moment when he landed quite a devastating body shot, or so we thought. Scott's down, it looks like he's crumbled. A second later, he's on his feet. Straight away, he's on his feet. Seems fine. Ortiz was unable to capitalise on that. Realistically, like, the way that Scott went down and like the fact that he got to his feet, Ortiz should have been able to close the show. He should have been able to close the show. He was not able to finish him, and he never really even troubled him, which was surprising. And anyway, we move on as the fight goes on. Ortiz kind of dominates the final few rounds. He's getting more and more accurate. He's completely dominating it, but unable to stop the fight. Now, here's a few things that were just talking points, right? What was Malik Scott's game plan? I think obviously it was to move about, it was to tire out Ortiz because he's never gone the rounds before. He's known to be a feared puncher. If he can avoid the punches, if he can wear them out, he's hopeful that in the later rounds he's going to be able to start boxing and do something. Now the problem is that we've seen this happen so many fights over the years where someone has adopted that style where they've tried to tire their man out, whether by taking a beating or running, right? And then as the opponent slows down, they capitalise on it. A lot of times what that needs is that you need to still be able to bang so you can stop your opponent. Ortiz is never going to... Scott is never going to stop Ortiz. So that game plan was really not the best one to adopt. He should have been moving and boxing, trying to steal rounds, win rounds, and he just wasn't. Okay? So moving on for Scott, I think pretty much he's done. I think his reputation has taken another beating, and I don't think anyone will give him a big fight again. So where he goes from here We'll have to see. We'll have to see, right? Um, so, so what have we kind of learned? What have we learned about Ortiz, right? We haven't learned whether he's got a good chin because he wasn't really tested again. So it's another fight where we haven't learned really whether Ortiz has got the chin that that face would suggest that he might have. Because he looks like a guy that might have a good chin, but does he have a good chin? We don't know. So he hasn't been tested. So when they're looking to match him with these top guys that we know are fearsome punchers, is he going to be able to take that punishment if one lands in the button? We don't know because we haven't even got close to finding that out. We found out that he can go the full 12, this is an interesting. He went the full 12 against someone who was effectively running, so he was getting tired out, but he wasn't taking any damage. So against someone that is throwing back at him, can he go the 12 rounds? So it's still a debatable question, right? One issue, he wasn't able to detonate a lot of great punches. Yeah, he dropped him a number of times, right? But he was Scott avoided a lot of good punches. So that's one question. And kind of combined with that, does Ortiz really have power? Does he have the power that everyone has been suggesting and saying that he has? Because put it this way, right? This is one of the big talking points of this fight. Scott was knocked down numerous times, right? Whether he fell down or he was legitimately knocked down, right? He got up without any problem every single time, and Ortiz was unable to finish him. I think that is such a major talking point in this fight. He was unable to finish him. He was unable to stop him, right? Does he really have crazy power that some of the other guys have, right? Because that's what everyone's been saying. Everyone's been saying this guy is a knockout specialist. He's got insane power, but does he? This is something that we are yet to find out, right? So let's just talk about, like, combining it back to the review. So we're still talking about what happened. So what I said in my review was that a good boxer beats Ortiz, right? And Scott's an all right boxer, right? But as we said, doesn't lack the power. So the combination of boxing and power and putting it all together doesn't quite have. So we're still yet to find out whether he will be troubled by someone on the elite level. I said that Ortiz mixes inactivity with explosive power. Now this is interesting because Scott didn't throw much or offer much going forward. Ortiz wasn't able to counter with explosive periods like he has done in previous fights. He was on the front foot and he had to be active pretty much the entire fight. Okay, so we did learn a little bit more about Ortiz, that he can be on the front foot, but we also learned that he was unable to close the show in that same fashion. Okay, so that's something that opponents will look at and say, do you know what, this guy is unable to close the show on the front foot. He needs to be kind of looking for opportunities, countering, and then exploding. And we said that in both the Jennings fight and the Thompson fight, that there were massive periods of inactivity where Ortiz really did nothing and just waited for those opportunities. But in this fight, he was just desperate to knock the guy out, so he just kept going and going and throwing, and not really getting anywhere. I also said that Jennings was better than Scott, and I still believe that. Even though Scott has taken him the distance, I think he did it because he was running, he was avoiding, he wasn't kind of ready for the fight. Like Jennings was throwing things, and as we just said, Ortiz was able to counter with explosive combinations, and that's basically effectively what finished the Jennings fight. I also said that when Scott feels the power of Ortiz, he'll be on his arse, which will happen over and over again, whether by truthfulness or just to avoid it. He was down again and again and again. And I also said that Scott will only survive this fight by going the distance, right, and really taking it there, and that's basically what happened. So, in a nutshell, we've learned a few more things about Ortiz. We've also learned that he isn't as fearsome as I think a lot of people think. He isn't the best guy in the division. A lot of people are putting him as the best in the division. I think realistically, he possibly does not have the power that people think he is. His movement isn't that great, and he struggles to kind of close the show on the front foot. Now, where does he go from here? There was talk about him fighting on the undercard of Anthony Joshua. Whether that still happens, I'm not 100% sure. He's obviously gone full 12 rounds. I think probably everyone involved was thinking this was going to be a very easy night's work, and we'll see Ortiz in a couple of weeks. So as he's gone the full 12, will he be out and about in 4 weeks' time? We don't know. If it is, it might. The problem is they can't really put a bum in there with him in 4 weeks' time. It needs to be someone of interest, I think, to start building the big fights. And they must be desperate because obviously he is getting on. He's 37 and he looks it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not being funny, but he's 37, just a couple of years older than me, and he looks a lot older. And I don't even look young. But there you go. So, interesting-ish fight. A lot of people will be watching this and going, this is a complete snooze fest. But anyway, so we move forward to a lot of exciting fights. Most of them seem to be around about December the 10th and the week later. So remember to jump back to the channel, check out the previews for those fights. Leave your comments on all these videos because I just want to get involved with everyone and debate this. And remember to give us a big thumbs up. Click the subscribe channel. This has been With Just 15 Defeats. See you in the next video.